The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News. Its audience or its advertisers do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour. The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statement medical, legal, or financial advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour. You will hear
Chop that shit. Just chop that shit.
Yeah, I guess we had the chopped and screwed version today.
Yeah. Welcome to the high at 9 news.
Yeah. Anyways, Millie, let's see. Oh, there we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. Sorry for that. I guess we had the chopped and screwed version this morning, but nonetheless, good morning. It is Wednesday, June 12th, and today is National Peanut Butter Cookie Day, National Jerky Day, not for all you jerky boys, and also National Loving Day and National Red Rose Day. You guys, shout out to those red roses.
For my delivery, Luke.
I just go back to those
red roses.
I just go back to those Craigslist days. You know how many roses, but nonetheless, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet, and we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off today, that's right, we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, the Quasimodo caretaker, the happy cabbage specialist, and that's right, he's the diaper changing daddy. That's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
The diaper dandy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jason.
What's up with those glasses today, bro?
Man, them things are fly as shit.
They are.
Yep. You like it?
I feel like
very nice.
Those things, I feel like he could be driving a Ferrari or at a shooting range.
No, he's not going to be
one.
driving a Ferrari. He just makes him look smarter.
Who's to say I won't be driving a Ferrari at the shooting range? You know what I'm saying? You know.
Oh boy.
Ooh,
Oh,
touche.
boy. All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling.
Drive-by accuracy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of drive-by accuracy,
Oh boy.
going back up to Mount Rushmore State.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, High at 9 News reported on a bit of cannabis positivity for once in South Dakota. Secretary of State Monet Johnson confirmed to the Associated Press that Mount Rushmore State's adult use legalization campaign had gathered enough valid signatures to appear on the November ballot. The last 5 years have been an emotional roller coaster for pro-pot South Dakotans. When another ballot initiative in 2020 made adult use cannabis legal, South Dakota's puppy murdering prohibitionist governor Kristi Noem had other plans. Going directly against the will of her own constituents, Noem weaponized the state Supreme Court in November 2021 to personally escalate a small local anti-legalization complaint into a viable assault on weed for the people, ultimately leading to the nullification of the voter-passed amendment. In 2022, voters rejected another initiative that would have allowed adults to possess and use homegrown cannabis, but did not establish a recreational cannabis market. With election season in full swing again, this fall, South Dakotans will have a third crack at legalizing, and this time with 22,000 signatures already tallied as of this week, comfortably passing the required 17,508. There's more support than ever to get it done. But just when we thought all things were looking up, she strikes again. According to SDPB Radio's CJ Keene, registration fees for medicinal cannabis businesses will go up nearly 70% by the end of this month. The decision was made by the State Department of Health, which has the authority to raise the fee following the passage of Senate Bill 43 this session. Once the bill becomes enforced, certification prices will rise to $9,000. Currently, it stands at $5,310. The new law takes effect the 1st of July and requires the fee hike to go into effect by September 30th. The new law, since Noem won her re-election campaign in 2022, South Dakota will unfortunately have to put up with the governor's prohibitionist policies at least until 2026. That's 2 more years of Christie Just Say No Noem in office. And after banning Delta 8 back in February, I'm predicting a huge spike in South Dakota for spice and K2 sales until then. Big prayers up for the people of South Dakota. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. What do you guys got to say about Kristi Noem? Favorite for VP pick? Above Marco?
I would need to forward an article about how cannabis businesses help property values go up and also help create tax revenue for children's programs, law enforcement, education, all kinds of beautiful things. I don't know, maybe somebody should sit down and just forward her some articles because she's not seeming like someone who's going to be rational in conversation.
I don't trust anybody who doesn't like weed and who doesn't like dogs, and she kills dogs and she hates weed.
I'll tell you right now, anyone that is saying that Governor Kristi Noem is in first place to be the president's VP pick is just crazy and wackadoodle and trying to push some other type of agenda, because that is definitely not the case. There's no
Sarah
advantage.
Palin 2.0.
No. There is zero advantage. Okay, Trump is going to carry South Dakota in double-digit margins. There is no advantage to propping her up as a VP pick. It makes absolutely zero sense.
But politics aside, her administration obviously is ignoring the 20 years of research that they could have used in crafting this regulation. If you want to overregulate and tax the hell out of a cannabis product and out of dispensaries and out of everything else, what you will do is you will create the trap market. Mm-hmm. Welcome to California, South Dakota. So unless you want to not do that, make it where people can enter the market easily and not be overtaxed and actually be able to have a viable business. Mm-hmm. And it'll create tax dollars, revenue for schools, revenue for roads, revenue for all the things that you like to spend your money on, Miss Noem. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, what we have to say is, hey, take a look at the other umpteenth states that had came before you, mm-hmm. and say, what did they get it right? Where did they get it wrong? And pick and choose out of those places to be able to get this situation right. But obviously that's not happening. They're going to make it overtaxed. They're going to create a trap market, and then they're going to start over-policing people and putting them in jail. And then that creates a vicious cycle that we know how that movie ends. So here we go.
What are you saying, Rico?
Well, traditionally, conservatives are for less tax and less regulation. Mm-hmm. Unless you're emotional against cannabis, and then you tax and regulate the shit out of it. And that's what we're dealing with here. It's not logical, it's emotional. I mean, for whatever reason, she's convinced herself, and perhaps others have, that this is going to be the end of Western civilization if someone's allowed to smoke weed legally. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're facing. I've seen it many times here in California, where the conservatives that don't like weed violate every tenet of conservatism, and they end up, as Luke said, spending law enforcement resources trying to police this shit, because people are going to buy weed. If I can't buy it in the store, I'll step around in the alley and somebody's got some food from forever.
Mm-hmm.
100, absolutely.
I mean, I just don't understand why they're propping up Governor Kristi Noem and trying to say that she's going to be the vice presidential pick, because this just
Jason caught
malarkey.
Up on the vice presidential pick.
I mean, you are really stuck on that. How about we just focus on the story at hand here, Jason?
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just calling out malarkey when I hear malarkey. That's all.
Well, politically speaking, she seems to be as dumb as a box of rocks. How do you advertise I shot a puppy?
And at this,
How do these people
at the
get
same
in office? That's what I want to know.
at the same time, you know, I mean, I think it's important to note that she is the only governor that has had a medical cannabis bill passed by the people that was ultimately rejected. And I think that really speaks to her political astuteness and her willingness to listen to the people. So I'm hoping that the overall general public band together and push back against any pushing forward of Governor Kristi Noem for the vice presidential seat.
That's the epitome of being anti-democratic, right? Is somebody who, when your entire constituency says we want one thing and the single person says, no, you don't, this is the way we're going to go.
Yep, exactly.
It sounds like a dictatorship to me.
Yeah, tyranny.
All right, fair enough. We're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right on into a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Hey, you America.
Transition back to us. All right.
No,
All right.
no commercials.
I guess we're not going to be playing commercials today because we're getting this chopped and screwed version. So I do apologize to everyone that enjoys all of those commercials and whatnot.
Actually, Jay,
Yes.
I'm going to say that was me doing that, everybody. That's for our listeners' pleasure. No more ads today. It's all talk. This is what you guys get.
All talk.
Y'all heard it here first.
Oh boy.
Exclusive. This is exclusive High at 9 membership viewership going on.
Oh,
no
boy.
ads, ad free.
Ad free
Gotta pay
today.
the bills, though, Luke.
Yes,
Gotta
that's
pay the
right.
bill.
Scarmazzo has broken down the paywalls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Shout out to those
Yeah, we're gonna
paywalls.
We all want to look as good as Jason Fields.
That's right, Dale.
Yes,
I mean, I have the
Yes,
commercials
I'll support
memorized.
Ricky Vanilla.
I could probably just do them.
absolutely. And speaking of that, looking as good as Jason Fields. Up next, we have the man who stretches more ligaments in his body than Kristi Noem does the law
With the truth.
to prohibit cannabis use in South Dakota. He's known for smoking the best weed in the world. He's known to be the highest Republican in every room that he walks into. And he has an undying love and affection for all things Donald J. Trump. Here to break us off with
It's
our
not my
second story
fault he's
today,
the greatest
none other
president.
than Jason.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. And man, oh man, everyone loves some powder mold, but there's a big mold scandal in Massachusetts that's led to a $200,000 fine for a marijuana MSO. That's right, you guys. Massachusetts regulators last month fined marijuana multi-state operator Holistic Industries $200,000 after a mold outbreak in which the company allegedly knowingly sold contaminated cannabis. According to an April 15th stipulated statement between the company and the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, the CCC, approved May 9th, the agency alleged Holistic knew about a mold outbreak at its cultivation facility in the town of Monson since last November 2020. Rather than immediately fix the problem, the company sought to permissive lab testing that allowed the tainted marijuana to pass inspection and to be sold, leading to numerous patient and consumer complaints that Holistic cannabis smelled and tasted like mold. Oh, that's so gross. According to CCC documents, Holistic Industries did not respond to several MJBiz requests for comments. In a brief statement, CCC spokesperson Tara Smith confirmed the company paid the fine, but she offered no further comment. In public comments at the CCC meeting on May 9th before the settlement was approved, Commissioner Kimberly Roy praised the employee whistleblowers for alerting officials of the problem and pushed for the creation of a dedicated, that's right, you guys, a whistleblower hotline. In a quote, "We want to thank these employees for being brave enough to speak up," Roy said. "We want to make sure consumers and patients are safe, but also our workers. According to the settlement, the CCC determined that Holistic violated 4 state regulations, including jeopardizing the welfare of the public. The fine is believed to be one of the largest imposed on a U.S. cannabis company for a potential health violation. And despite increased scrutiny in recent years about the relationship between marijuana operators and independent testing labs, the situation came to light only after employees enacted regulators in fall of 2021. According to the CCC, employees claimed the company leadership knew about the problem, but moldy product was, that's right, you guys, in quotes, pushed through anyway. According to the settlement agreement, critics say the situation highlights several ongoing problems, including lax oversight that allows unscrupulous operators to use labs that provide desirable results, including inflated THC potency. Altering lab testing results amounts to fraud, but seeking lab results that allow contaminated product to enter the market creates potential for health and safety crises that affect both workers and consumers. In a quote, I think it's fairly serious. The ease with which the system was gamed is really concerning here, said Jeff Rawson, the Cambridge, Massachusetts-based founder of the Institute of Cannabis Science, a consumer advocacy and watchdog group that's been sounding the alarm over lax testing and safety standards. In a quote, he says, it's fraud, and it's also unlawful. Occupational hazard, he says. You are not allowed to employ people in a workplace that's full of mold. I feel like this is True Leave all over again, but nonetheless. Such problems aren't limited to Holistic, according to Rawson, who has performed random testing of the shelf cannabis products in Massachusetts and found about 10% of those selected failed his own testing for mold. As part of its settlement with the state, Holistic neither admits nor denies any allegations, including mold was present throughout Holistic's 56,000 square foot cultivation facility, including grow rooms, processing tables, office spaces, drains, HVAC systems, and structural elements. Holistic knowingly requested a polymerase chain reaction known as PCR testing rather than plate assay testing to ensure the maximum volume of product would reach the market. Holistic did not begin remediating the mold outbreak until April of 2021, despite knowing about the problem the previous winter. The company did not cease production during the mold outbreak nor the remediation efforts. And as part of the settlement, Holistic must, for 6 months, submit product for testing to a third-party lab agreed to by both the state and the company. And Holistic alleged mold problem became public knowledge back in 2021 thanks to the employee whistleblower who leaked the word of the situation to local media as well as state regulators. That year, an independent investigation found significant mold contamination throughout their facility in Monsoon, according to a report anonymously leaked to the Daily Hampshire Gazette and other media outlets. At the time, Jamie Ware, a senior vice president at Holistic, blamed a December 2020 power outage for a high humidity event and said the company found mold in June of 2021 after a pervasive smell appeared. Headquartered in Washington, D.C., Holistic Industries also operates cultivation facilities in Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. The company operates 15 adult-use stores and medical marijuana dispensaries under its Liberty brand in California, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And in news releases, Holistic describes itself as among the largest privately held MSOs in the country, and the company also scored a marketing coup when it secured the rights to sell cannabis using the name and likeness of Grateful Dead frontman Jerry Garcia. The alleged mold outbreak in Monsoon is one of several incidents to involve employees and consumer safety in the Massachusetts cannabis industry. And back in January of 2022, a 27-year-old cultivation worker employed by Florida-based MSO True Leave Cannabis Corp. Died after collapsing at the company's former grow operation in Holyoke. As part of the settlement in that matter, True Leave paid $14,502 fine and agreed to fund a study about the hazards of ground cannabis dust, you guys. Man, oh man, oh man, this is not surprising at all that these MSOs are selling you moldy weed. I'm not surprised at all. I am a little bit surprised that they got such a hefty fine, especially after Trulieve got such a just a tap on the wrist. But nonetheless, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. This is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News Hour. What do y'all think?
I would say, you know, with the whole Jerry Garcia, securing the rights with Jerry Garcia and his endorsement, or his estate's endorsement of Holistic, the dead ain't so grateful for this bullshit story. Turning it.
This kind of stuff is going to keep happening. We have to hold our businesses to a high standard. We are highly policed. We are highly judged, highly criticized. Like, we absolutely need to be on all levels holding ourselves to the highest standards across the board. We have to. Otherwise, we are creating a situation where the naysayers for our industry become right.
Naysayers.
There's a few out there. You may have heard of them.
Well, it points out that trying to allow the system to police itself is proving to be problematic. We had the same problem here in California when these labs were just outright lying about things.
Yeah.
And whether or not you got 20% THC or 15% THC really isn't going to kill you. Inhaling mold might, and having people work in a moldy environment in California is an OSHA violation. It should be everywhere. And what do you do to control this when the profit margins are so low and you're looking at destroying an entire crop, which may kill your company, or your option is to sell it out the back door, which happens here in California a lot, or you run it through a lab with a wink and a nod, and you put it out there and hope to God that, you know, you survive it.
Yeah.
That's where these companies have been put. And it's a problem because people are basically lion sacks of shit at their core when it comes to some of these issues and whether they should be running companies or not. If you look at other industries, there's lion sacks of shit running them too. So our industry is just over scrutinized right now for everything. But, you know, come on, dude, selling moldy weed is just it's a party foul.
Yeah.
And I wonder what happened to that damn lab. I mean, did they go after them?
Exactly. I mean, does anyone find it interesting? I know I do, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this, Rico. But the fact that these guys got such a steep fine in relation to the fine that Trulieve received, and Trulieve had an employee die, and yet these guys just sold moldy weed and got a bunch of complaints from the general public, but no one died. No one's claiming that they got sick from any of this stuff, but yet they're fined $200,000 and Trulieve gets fined $14,000. What is going on in this world?
I think it might have to do, I mean, I could be totally wrong, but could it have something to do with the fact that this went on for an incredibly long period of time? The Trulieve
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. You know what I believe it is, Manndie? I believe that it is political contributions that Trulieve has made that this company has not.
But also,
I mean, you could probably bank on that.
Could have been selling moldy weed and all that too, but I mean, Trulieve got the fuck out after they got their fine reduced, like 30,000, whatever it was, 35,000, what it was initially. They petitioned to get that reduced, and they ended up paying what, 9,000. They got the fuck up out the state. So a whole lot more could have been coming down the pipeline to get Trulieve in trouble, but they don't exist there anymore. They retreated to Florida.
Exactly.
There's two words why Trulieve's fines and ultimate payment was better than the latter. Better attorneys.
Shit.
True on that, Luke. True on that.
True. Very, very true.
Right.
Unfortunately, but it's true.
MSO based in Washington, D.C.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to keep this train rolling. We have some breaking news coming up that is a High at 9 exclusive, you guys. And bringing that that's right. It's attorney Dale Schaefer. He's the man that's going to show you how to piss up a rope and do it twice and be nothing nice. He's also a convicted felon for cannabis. And as of course, he is an attorney at law. That's right. The man who did no telling, but did still become a convicted felon. That's right, Mr. Attorney Dale Schaefer.
That's right, man. I rode my beef and did my time.
That's right.
Didn't rat nobody out.
Hashtag no snitching, huh?
Okay.
Shout out to all the honorable ones.
Yeah. Well, I have my own problem with snitches and rats. And anyway, going beyond that, we have some breaking news here out of California, out of Ventura County. None other than Ventura County, where the cops go to retire. And it seems that a guy named Adam King, in March of 2023, he submitted an application to get a carry concealed weapon permit. We call it a CCW here in California. And sheriffs have a whole lot of authority to deny these. In fact, you really got to climb a high mountain to get a CCW. I had one back in the 90s for threats to my family, and the sheriff gave it to me. And when they heard about Molly's weed use, boom, it was taken away. What we have here is a denial of the application for a CCW because an investigator for the sheriff's office, 11 months after the application, let me just point out, they sat on this thing for 11 months before anybody decided to make a phone call to this guy. And he admitted that, well, I don't regularly use weed, but 3 or 4 weeks back at a birthday party, my friends kind of twisted my arm a little bit and gave me some decent weed. I took a couple hits, and he admitted to this. The sheriff denied it.
Yeah.
And the reason they denied it was based upon a statute in California which mentions the use of abuse of a controlled substance as a reason to deny this. The investigator put into his declaration that he was denied because he utilized a controlled substance. He then made reference to a federal law which makes it an offense to transfer a gun to someone is illegally using a controlled substance, okay? And so the reason why it was denied, the definitions of these terms are just not agreed upon, okay? And so the Supreme Court, 2 years back in a New York case called Bruin, the New York Rifle and Gun Club, whatever, versus Bruin, it really stated a clear, absolute right to bear arms in public for protection. And they reined the state of New York in for trying to put hurdles in the way of people getting a gun permit carry. And so California was one of those few states that hadn't fixed this. So now we have a denial of a permit because this person at one point, maybe a month before, had smoked some weed. And at the hearing, I talked to the attorney for Adam, and at the hearing, the judge focused in on, well, if you can drink a glass of wine and get a gun, why can't you smoke a joint every once in a while and get a gun? What is the difference here? It turns out the court didn't buy the argument from the sheriff. And when you read this declaration, they dredged up reefer madness nonsense that it's laughable at one level, but on another level, it's a reason why you don't ever want your name on paper officially using weed, because your gun rights are definitely in jeopardy. Now, that's traditionally how it's been. But now we have a court saying, hang on, just because you smoked weed one time in a state where weed is legal does not disqualify you from obtaining a CCW. That's the first time that bell's been rung. I was a bit surprised because Ventura County is typically very conservative, very cop-oriented. It's the reason the Rodney King case was transferred up there, because they knew what kind of a verdict they were going to get against the cops. And here we have a court saying, nah, that ain't good enough. Okay? Now, this is not the end of this. I haven't seen all the pleadings, and I haven't seen the judge's written order, and it's something we'll revisit as we go through this. But it's the first time that bell's been rung where the sheriff has been told, just because someone smokes weed, it doesn't disqualify them from obtaining a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Now, this is going to, a lot of cops have their panties in a knot, much like when Prop 215 passed and they started losing control over people who smoke pot. We're going to see what they do on the appeal. I just can't imagine the sheriff's going to let this one go by without screaming bloody murder and seeing what he can salvage out of this. Problem is that the definitions and the logic behind this is so schizophrenic that I don't know how, with a straight face, you try to justify why you use words like utilize a substance, abuse it, you're addicted to it, you illegally use it. How in the world do you make sense out of this if someone has the right in California to go purchase and to consume cannabis? How do you justify that disqualifying them under a state law to obtain a concealed carry permit? This is just the beginning. I'm going to throw this back at you because this is ripe for a lot of discussions and a lot of different vectors here. So let's go. Back at you guys. What do you think?
This is huge news, Dale. Huge news. Yep. I think this is going to have rippling effects throughout the entire state and throughout the country. And I find it also interesting too that we got this information on this case just the other day, and yet yesterday they had the Hunter Biden verdict come out in regards, and these two stories are kind of related because they're trying to say they're trying to take his gun rights away for saying that he's using crack, which is also, you know what I'm saying, a controlled substance.
Well, the definitions here are real problematic, and this is the turd in the law enforcement's punch bowl now, because they can't dance around it anymore. A judge has said, no, we're not buying it, okay? So the burden now falls onto them to justify why you would deny this because someone has just occasionally used the substance. Hunter Biden thing, he was definitely a crack addict. However you define it, he was a crack addict. And should that make any difference? Because the Second Amendment is pretty clear. Okay, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And at what point do you infringe someone's rights?
And when they are a Democrat, when they're a Democrat, that's when you do it.
Oh boy, oh boy. When it's funny too, Dale, because with this case, with this case, there's a lot of conservatives that are actually coming in defense of Hunter Biden in regards to this, and they're actually saying that box on the gun form that asks if you use drugs or anything illegal or whatnot is basically a violation of the Fifth Amendment because you have a right to not incriminate yourself, Dale. Do you think how do you think that's going to play out?
That's the Timothy Leary case in the 47 Tax Act. That's what got it. You had to admit you had the weed to apply for it, but having the weed without the permit was illegal. So it was the Fifth Amendment trap. It could be that. But, really, what is the purpose of looking at drugs and saying you can't have a gun permit, right? You can't even own a gun if you use drugs, because alcohol is liquid stupid and a hell of a lot more dangerous to other people out there than weed is.
Liquid stupid.
At what point, is it going to be that it still sticks in my craw to let someone who's addicted to meth or coke do it?
This is not... Dale. Go ahead, Manndie. You were going, then I had some.
I was just going to say that when it comes to disclosing your substance use, for many people that could also be a violation of their medical
HIPAA
rights,
for sure.
HIPAA coverage, because to disclose something like that could also be stating that you have an addiction problem or that you are dependent on something, which really is truly a violation of your medical privacy. So
go ahead. I thought you were done. No, go ahead.
That's it. I am done.
Let me segue off that, Manndie. Let's take this a step further. Let's take this into the world of Schedule 3, ladies and gentlemen, where now we have a medical necessity. So now when the federal government recognizes me with a medical necessity to use this cannabis substance, right? How can you bar me from it then? So let's go back a little bit further before that, though. Whether you are a Democrat or whether you are a Republican on this issue, this is an unconstitutional issue, regardless of ideology. You cannot stop somebody from exercising their Second Amendment right simply because they use IE substance after that. Unconstitutional on its face. I don't care anything after that. Now, you can get into the weeds on it and all that stuff, right? Whether or not, okay, if I need Vicodin for pain, does that mean I can't possess a concealed weapon? My doctor prescribed that to me. See, this is a very slippery slope. When you start taking people's rights, especially their Bill of Rights, right? That's why our founders and our framers were so hesitant on letting anybody infringe on these. Because once you do it, you begin to infringe on all of them. And you begin to go into the Fourth Amendment, and you begin to go into the Fifth Amendment, and all these other amendments that we shouldn't be touching, right? So this situation right here is just indicative of the larger situation where they say, oh, anybody who uses weed or anybody involved in cannabis really doesn't deserve rights. And that's the mentality that we have to switch.
Fair enough.
Anybody who is using Oxycontin over the last 15 years, why don't you go back and prosecute them?
Yeah.
Right.
What the courts are doing here, guys, is that they're taking a look at this constitutional right, and it is clearly a right, an absolutely stated right that applies to the states, and they're not letting anybody apply what we used to call intermediate scrutiny. It's got to be strict scrutiny. This has got to be necessary to achieve a fundamental state interest. So if that's where we're going forward after the Brune case, where the court said you have a right to do this, and if someone takes that right away, we're going to make sure the government justifies this at the highest level of scrutiny. And they look historically. Before the war on drugs, no one took your gun rights away because you were using drugs. They didn't. In fact, in the 1800s, you got out of jail, they gave you your guns back and said, you've done your time, off you go. So historically, the courts are looking at this historically and saying, just because, and Thomas wrote this, okay, I'm hoping Thomas, as much controversy as he has, he follows the logic he had in the rates decision and says this is basically bullshit. It's an overreach by the government to take away your rights. And if you can state the purpose for it, let's clearly define the purpose of why you're using drugs to take away someone's rights. What is that purpose? Clearly define the terms used, make the government strictly strict to them. And if they do that, they can't justify it because this is hypocritical bullshit. And they all know it. They're just saying, hey, I'm wearing the badge. I told you, don't do it. Well, fuck you. You ain't my dad.
Yes, and let's remember why the framers gave us the right to bear arms. Was one of the chief reasons was to protect against tyranny. So when the government that we are supposed to be protecting ourselves against is the one that's saying you can't have that protection, let's pause and think about that. That's all I'm saying.
My bear arms are not.
Well, I lost my gun rights, and it pisses me off. But I have a lot of people in my family who are responsible, lawful gun owners. Okay, and I'm just telling you, if shit goes down, they're coming to my house, okay, to protect me.
Yep.
Okay, and you can bet, if necessary, things will be flying in both directions here. Because that's the reason, as Luke said, you can read all you want in the Second Amendment. Basically, if you show up at my house without any reason, you better understand that what's coming back at you may not be, hello, how you doing?
Exactly, man. I just want to give a big congratulations to the law firm and to my buddy Adam King who went through this case. Big congratulations. This is going to have big ripple effects across not just California, but I think in other states as well. And we're going to definitely keep on following along with this. And I think we are going to do a standalone video in regards with this and with an interview with Adam and his attorney in regards with this whole case, and make sure that we continually to follow all of the developments in regards to this. But are you ready?
Do we know who his attorney was, Jay?
Yeah. We know the attorney. Dale and I had a conversation with him yesterday. Yeah, I have all that information. I just don't have his name and everything all in front of me.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see, because congratulations on the victory on that, because that's a much needed win. And wind in the sails of this argument. So congratulations to Mr. King and the law firm who represented him.
Yes, most definitely. And on that, we're going to go into our little promo piece real quick, you guys. And so first of all, I do want to apologize for the internet troubles that everyone is experiencing. We are working to upgrade our internet over here. The internet company was over here yesterday to look to do the install and whatnot. So just know that that will soon pass, but we are working as fast as we possibly can to get the internet upgraded over here. So we do apologize. But nonetheless, make sure that you hit that like button. I know you'll appreciate it, we'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. Now, this article, Dale's story that we just covered, is the only one that is up there right now. So we are encouraging everyone to share this. This is breaking news, and this is a High at 9 exclusive. No other cannabis media outlet has covered this as of yet. And so we are hoping that all of you will share this all throughout all of your platforms and whatnot and help spread the news in regards with this article. Rico, I now leave the floor to you.
Hey.
There's no ceilings, baby.
Yeah.
Screen is frozen. Hold on one second.
Man, it's been.
Next.
I think we're getting hacked by the Democrats today.
Yeah, man. Something's going
Well,
on,
then,
man.
Biden, we need some people out of prison.
Yeah, exactly.
We're over here glitching like Joe Biden at a gospel concert.
Exactly.
Speaking of that, up next, we have the undeniable Manndie Tingler coming to the stage. Y'all know her better. She's better known by some people as Carmen Sacramento. She's known for her unbelievable prowess to judge everything from cannabis edibles, smokables, ingestibles, and she is known for calling out Jason Beck on all of his bull as well.
Stop it. No one calls me out on anything.
My favorite pastime.
I bet.
Coming to the stage, y'all know who it is. The lone lady on the stage, Manndie Tingler.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Today, I got a fun hot topic for everybody. This should spark a lot of conversation. You guys all know that our industry is subject to a lot of rules and regulations that are just kind of arbitrary and not totally sure how people come up with them. But this particular article comes to us today from Marijuana Moment. The headline reads, DC residents sue city over cannabis dispensaries in their neighborhoods. A group of Northwestern D.C. residents, as well as one of D.C.'s advisory neighborhood commissions, is going to court to stop a new cannabis dispensary from opening up, saying the location they've chosen are too close to the schools and the city isn't listening to their concerns. The case has been appealed to the D.C. Court of Appeals and was filed by a group called 1,000 Feet, which is made up of residents in D.C.'s Palisades neighborhood, as well as ANC-2C. I'm not totally sure what that acronym means. Says, we want to protect DC's kids from unnecessary exposure to drugs, says Lucy Sullivan, speaking on behalf of 1,000 Feet. We don't believe that marijuana stores should operate across the street or next door to schools, and the DC government has been allowing that, and we think it's a real danger to kids and communities. Currently, the city requires 300 feet of distance between cannabis dispensaries and the schools or daycare facilities, but there are some loopholes in the law. Sullivan said even 300 feet is too lenient and said that the city should abide by the 1,000 feet rule described in the Federal Drug Free School Zone Act, which prohibits the sale of illegal drugs within 1,000 feet of public or private schools. There is a federal law that has been put in place to protect children to ensure their safety and their health. We think that the DC government needs to abide by that law, says Sullivan. Efforts to protest the license for Green Theory, the dispensary opening and operating on MacArthur Boulevard Northwest, were thrown out by DC's Alcohol, Beverage, and Cannabis Administration for lack of standing. They want to have the right to protest and the right to be heard, said Mark Lytle, who is suing DC on behalf of ANC-2C, which is trying to stop a dispensary from opening up in the Penn Quarter neighborhood. He said in the case of the 1,000 Feet group, they were stymied because they lacked the support from their local ANC. We have not had a voice in this process, so the process itself also needs to change, says Sullivan. We believe that the kids and communities deserve a voice and have a say in this, and we're hoping that the courts will agree. Lytle is hoping the case could lead to some federal intervention, too. Congress has the authority to allow the Department of Justice to enforce the 1,000 feet rule, said Lytle. And we think that maybe this will bring some attention to the issue and might get some help from the congressional authors who are writing any riders or things that limit the Department of Justice from taking some action. Green Theory, which is the dispensary in question, and the ABCA did not return calls and emails to further comment on this matter. But I would bank on the fact that our High at 9 watchers and listeners have something to say about this topic. So I'm going to kick it back to everybody. This is Manndie Tingler, a.k.a. Carmen Sacramento, coming at you live for High at 9 News on Wednesday morning. What say y'all?
NIMBY is real.
Yeah, right. NIMBY. But at the same time, I mean, most jurisdictions have a distance that you can be from a school, or you need to not be from a school, and so I don't see the big hype as far as what this store is really having to gripe about, because I mean, you're not supposed to be that close to a school.
I mean, the store is not the complainer. The store is this 1,000 feet organization who thinks that 300 feet is too close to schools.
Well, if you look across a lot of municipalities, most municipalities have 1,000 foot to a 500 foot buffer from schools. I mean, California has a 600 foot buffer. So I don't think that they're that far out of the question. I mean, there's only one municipality in California that I know that has actually no buffer with a school zone, and there's other cities that have less than 600 feet distance to a school as far as their city regulation.
Let me turn this into an interview, Mr. Beck.
Yep.
Are there liquor stores within the 1,000 feet of these schools?
Look, we're not. You know what? If I was to flip a coin, I would say, yeah. I would bet that yes, there was. But at the same time,
are there sex toy shops within 1,000 feet of these schools?
We all know the hypocrisies in regards to this, Luke. Like I'm just saying that, like, when you get into cannabis, you know what the rules of the game are. Okay, and so to assume that this wouldn't happen is just a misstep by this company.
No, it's not that though, bro. But just because the rules are there doesn't mean that they're just rules, and doesn't mean that they should be followed. Mm-hmm. So I would practice civil disobedience in some of these areas, not necessarily in this one. I'm not suggesting people get their business shut down, but in certain areas where it just doesn't make sense, like this is just morally a dumb law, and this is just stupid. Like, oh, we got to hide the dispensaries in the worst parts of the town, in the industrial areas, and it's like
even around schools though, Luke, they're all designated as drug-free zones, and you get charged with higher offenses when you get busted doing stuff like that in those drug zones proximity to school. So it's the same even for criminals.
Well, no, that was a product of the DARE program, was the whole drug-free school enhancements on that area, because that
regardless of what it was, it is
in the inner cities, brother. That's where a lot of the people congregate, is around the basketball court and the schools.
Yeah,
and that's what
parks, all that. Yeah, anyhow, exactly.
We won't get into that. That's a whole nother issue. But my point is this: let's not be hypocrites. The word hypocrite and hypocrisy comes from the Greek word, which means to use masks. And we use two different masks. Mm-hmm. And we see you when you're in one mask, and when we see you, you're in another mask. So let's just wear the same mask for cannabis, or for alcohol, or for whatever else the vice is that the conservative Christians of America don't want us to have around their kids.
Fair enough.
Well, what's the stated purpose? I mean, that's where I keep falling back to, is if we're going to restrict things, okay, what are you restricting and why? And that's where this whole thing falls apart, because as Luke points out, it's hypocritical, because up the street and around the corner is a bar, okay, and across the street is a market where you can buy retail liquor, but you can't have someone have a cannabis store. And we understand the hypocrisy. I understand the NIMBYs and all that kind of shit. But tell us, what is your purpose? To protect children? Okay, well, protect them from what? Because drugs and alcohol now have become basically synonymous. If you're a drunk, okay, or if you're a crack addict, you still are a problem to society. So what are we trying to protect kids from here? Okay. And that's where the argument just falls apart. Because if you say we're going to protect them from drugs, yeah, well, drugs and alcohol, how do you separate them when it comes to protecting kids from it? Because guess what? Kids know that people are smoking weed. Okay, let's just stop playing her. They know their parents have a glass of wine. They're standing in the market, and behind them is the liquor aisle, and in front of them's whatever the latest holidays, toys, and candy are. Okay?
Well, Dale,
the fucking hypocrisy is hard to deal with.
Not to mention that, but kids can tell when the air smells different.
How about the 1,000? How about the 1,000 feet? How about the 1,000 feet crew should say, we don't put schools 1,000 feet from power lines or toxic waste dumps or any other thing that these legislators have their money invested in. We won't say that though, right?
I mean, you bring up a lot of good points, but nonetheless, we got to keep this train rolling, and we do want to acknowledge some super chats and thank everyone. We're gonna go through a few of them. Are you ready, Rico? Jenny Beth Dills, who happened to be on yesterday, has a super chat and says, "Someone read my comment, Jason." And so, Jenny, we are reading your comment, and she says hashtag constitutional law, and that's in regards to Dale's story with the gun law. And we also have Miss Anna Lewis, the CEO of Catalyst, who says, since there are no commercials today, I would like to shout out Smokey Vanilla for his amazing intuitive stretch. She says, thank you. Shout out Smokey Vanilla. Oh, yes. And we have one more. That's right. The C word says, who's wholesaling hash today? Hashtag sucker free. Thank you all for those super chats. Very, very much appreciated.
Hell yeah.
Yes. And yes, Millie, that was the air horn. Good job, Millie. We got Millie in the back.
And she said, Jenny Jills, you have to read her comment. She said, the key is equal protection under the Constitution. This is constitutional law. And this is how Lil Ol' Me caught a gun charge.
That's the comment she wanted me to read. Thank you, Rico.
Yeah.
Well, she should have copied and pasted that and put it into that whole super chat, and that's how I would have read it. But whatever.
Why you mad, bro?
I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. I didn't even see that chat, so I couldn't figure out what the hell she was talking about. But
well, when they came to my house, I had guns and pounds of weed in the same room. And they gave me my guns back and my money and took my weed, and I never caught a gun charge. Why is that? Okay, I was treated special, and it's unfortunate, but I was, and it's not right, but it's real.
Yeah,
and that's what we got to deal with.
Well, that's
ain't
what,
right. But it sure happens.
But they always just put that under the umbrella of prosecutorial discretion too, right, Dale?
Well, yeah, because they knew I had over 100 plants that were going to get me for a 5-year minimum mandatory. The judge made it clear I ain't giving him another day.
Yeah.
Why start adding on? That's what they try to do. They stack charges to get as much time as they can on you. And the judge told them I ain't going to do it.
Fair enough.
But even before that, Jay, what Dale was elucidating was not prosecutorial discretion, which would have been at the next level. That was at the charging level, where the police officers decided not even to bring those charges against Dale. See, that's a whole nother set of issues that we have that go on. And then if they would have decided to be a-holes and bring those at the prosecutorial level is when the prosecutor or the U.S. attorney or the district attorney can also say, hey, we don't think this Dale should be in trouble for this. We're going to go ahead and kick this out in the interest of justice.
Yep. Exactly. I feel you.
I'm pro buffer. I like buffers.
That's right. Coming up next, that's right, it's Mr. Luke Scarmazzo. He also did some time for a cannabis crime, but didn't do no telling, but still became a felon. He also has a book out called High Price, where you can purchase on Amazon and anywhere else you can purchase books at. And his brand, The Prophet, is available in stores throughout California. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Luke Scarmazzo.
Yes. It's Wednesday, hump day, so you know what it is. It's your neighborhood outlaw correspondent kicking you that outlaw news. And we don't got to go too far for this outlaw news today. Today, it's in Oklahoma, OKC, the Wild West. Law enforcement from several agencies converge on a warehouse in North Oklahoma City on Tuesday as part of a massive marijuana raid. The last time I was in Oklahoma City, I was on an airplane. This airplane was called Con Air, and it flies you directly to the prison. The plane pulls right up to the prison. The tarmac leads into the cells. That was my last time in OKC. Since then, OKC has changed tremendously. I think, I don't know, they have, I want to say it was like, you could grow 2 acres for $500 or something. I'm sure the chat room will correct me on the exact amount, but it was something like that. But anyway, agents on the scene told News 4 that they found 15,000 pounds of finished marijuana product and 10,000 pounds of marijuana plants inside the building on West Wilshire Boulevard near North Clawson. For hours, agents, including teams of the Attorney General's office and Oklahoma City Police, could be seen going in and out of the warehouse. They would come out with their hands full. Black and white trash bags were stacked feet high outside of the building. Marijuana could be seen spilling out onto the ground. Man, this is quite a scene right here. Sounds like it could be fun. I want to be around all these stacks of marijuana spilling all over into the ground around me. Hell yeah. Around 4 p.m. Tuesday, a pair of dump trucks pulled up to the doors of the warehouse, and the crews started throwing trash bags into the back before hauling them off. Law enforcement has not confirmed what sparked the bust for KFOR, but KFOR did a license search of the property and could not find a valid marijuana grow license for the address. Several workers at a nearby business told KFOR that every morning when they would arrive to work, they could smell a strong scent of marijuana in the area. The estimated street value for the amount of marijuana found inside the building, hold on, was upwards of $30 million. Now we know about the law enforcement's estimates of 30 million or 3 million or 300 million. It really doesn't matter. They're all the same. Oklahoma, has a lot of traditional market going on right now. It's what it is out there. The state of what it is, how they created their laws has created a situation. Their medical laws were some of the better ones around the country. The rec laws have gone into, their conversations into the rec market have gone kind of haywire. Oklahoma's an interesting case study. They thought that the supply from Oklahoma was going to tremendously affect California for a time, until they found out that, well, Oklahoma just can't grow cannabis as good as California. So we're going to have these policing issues going on in Oklahoma until we can get this figured out. Until then, there'll be stacks of marijuana spilling onto the ground with dump trucks full of cannabis buds trucking down the streets. This is Luke Scarmazzo coming to you for the High at 9 News, kicking it back to my fellow correspondents in this weed wonderland.
That's a whole new kind of tumbleweed, huh?
Right? Man. How much weed did they say it was again, Luke?
Well, they weighed the plants, it looks like. So it was 15,000 pounds of finished marijuana products. And they say products, so I'm not sure. What
so
that means.
they're weighing everything packaged as finished product and everything else like that.
It could be packaging, it could be edibles. I don't know.
Yeah.
Products is a very broad term. And then it says 10,000 pounds of marijuana plants inside of the building.
Of plants,
so they ripped up the plants, or they could weigh the pots. Who knows?
Yeah, no, they do. They weigh the pots. All of that. It's all considered all the same thing. And so I guess in order for us to figure it out, first we would have to know what size pots they were growing in first, right?
Was it on top of a crate that was on top of a forklift, and they weighed the forklift?
Oh, that's a good thing. That's a good point. They could have been lifted, raised off of the floor too. Yeah, that's a whole extra.
And then tax the weight of the forklift against the cannabis tax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it wet?
Oh man. Man, OKC, man, you guys are like, you know, it's tumbleweed, lots of tumbleweed.
And easy as it was in Oklahoma to be able to grow weed legally, they still had too many restrictions. Okay, and the lesson to be learned, and I'll keep screaming this, the lesson to be learned is green light the legal industry, take down all these ridiculous regulations, lower the taxes, only the bare necessity to oversee this and get this going, or the trap's going to just laugh all their way to where they bury their money. You're not learning the lesson. People want weed, and if you make it too hard for them to get it legally, they're going to go and get it in the trap market, and the dynamic keeps going on. And this was a trap market. What did it take to get that? You lease the building, and you start growing your shit and making your product right there. Nothing else had to happen, and we need to make the legal market more like that. Test the hell out of it. Punish the testing labs if this is dirty product getting through. But please, take away all these ridiculous taxes and regulations.
I feel you. All right, we're gonna.
Yeah, the whole Oklahoma market has been a bait and switch, man, from the beginning.
Yeah,
like the whole $2,500 to get a license. I think we did the math as soon as that dropped on our old show, Jason. I think it was like $10 million. Yeah, that it equaled out to.
Yeah, when you
somebody got a bridge paid for.
Yeah,
somebody got a bridge paid for to pass that shit.
Easy peasy.
And what, you could have grew across the whole state? What you're saying for $10 million? The entire state would have been mine.
No. Meaning you would have you have a license to operate in that state. So wherever you choose to operate.
The entire revenue that they brought in. Yeah, from the legalization efforts to give out licenses, the entire revenue that was brought in from that is still less than the cost of weed that was accounted for in this drug bust. That's the irony.
Oh man,
free the fucking plant. How about that?
Yeah,
we're gonna get it right.
Law enforcement to enforce these ridiculous laws. They don't like to talk about that. How much it costs? What that raid cost? Okay, what does it cost for all the things that go into just that raid? And law enforcement keeps wanting their money and their power and their control, and no one wants to talk about lowering the cost of enforcement against all this stuff. They just don't want to say that's not popular. Let's not talk about that. Well, it's damn sure real. Send the cops out there for real crime, violent people that'll take your shit, lie to you, hurt you. And that's where we should be focusing our law enforcement dollars, not on, someone's growing some weed in a warehouse.
Okay? Tank fuel ain't cheap.
Fair enough. All right. We're gonna keep this thing rolling. I got one more final story for you guys, and Rico, you love Ohio. So this is
OH.
Yes.
That's where they're swagging infinitely.
They're
Nick Lachey,
bro.
Where you at?
Youngstown, Cleveland, Dayton, Cincinnati.
Exactly. These
I used to get it in
56
Ohio.
Towns in Ohio will ban the sale of adult use marijuana despite its legalization, you guys. That's right. Ohioans voted to legalize adult use in November, which means adults 21 and older will be able to possess, grow, and buy marijuana for adult use purposes. According to the Ohio State University's Moritz College of Law, dozens of towns in Ohio will ban the sale of adult use marijuana despite its legalization. The university wrote that 56 municipalities have passed bans on the sale of adult use marijuana as of May 31st, 2024. Those cities mark up roughly 3% of the 924 incorporated municipalities and 1,307 townships in Ohio. Per the university, the following cities in Ohio will ban the sale of adult use marijuana according to Moritz College of Law. And then the following towns are Ashland, Austin Township, Avon Lake, Barbertown, Beechwood, Beaver Creek, Bellefontaine, Belleville, Brunswick, Carlisle, Centerville, Clayton, Coppy Township, Eaton, Fairfield, Franklin, Ganville Township, Green Hamilton, Hudson, Kittering, Kirtland, Lakewood, Lexington, Lisbon, Logan, Madison Township, Marysville, Medina Township, Miamisburg, Monroe, Napoleon, New Franklin, North Olmsted, North Royalton, Northfield, Norton, Obetz, Ontario, Orange, Perrysburg, Salem, Shelby, Springboro, Strongville, Sycamore Township, Troywood, Troy, Vandalia, Washington Township, Waynesville, West Carlton, Westchester Township, West Xena, and the university noted that of the list of the cities banning the sale of adult use marijuana may not be complete, adding that lengths of the bans vary from city to city, with some lasting just a few months and others lasting a year. And adult use dispensaries are expected to open this summer or early fall of this year, you guys. Ohio! Man, is Ohio going to be the next California with all this local control, and they're just going to have an out-of-control trap market going on there too? I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
We're at 60-70% prohibition in California.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like this is a very small amount, which I think is doable.
3%.
You know, you can walk across the city line and go buy your weed and come back. That's less of a problem we have in California, where 60 to 70% of the whole jurisdiction.
Well, Dale, I'm going to push back a little bit on that, because if you look at how California and what happened here, you had a bunch of cities that started doing this, and then that went on for a couple years of cities creating these bans. And so just because it's 3% right now doesn't mean it can't ultimately turn into 30 or 40% of all of Ohio by the in the next 2 years.
Well, there's an argument there, but I'd rather be starting from 3 or 4% and working up than starting at 70% and try to deal with that number the way California dealt with it. The court said you're free to travel and deliver in any place in the state you want. All these bans really got gutted because I can just drive my delivery van in there and deliver right to the doors of your people. And then they start grabbing taxes. And so we're working our way down from, say, 70%. 3 or 4% is a better bargain for our industry that is going to ban it than the 60 to 70% we have in California that bans it, because that's just gutted the industry. That and the regulations and taxes. Our industry is circling the drain here in California. And I hope other states are watching.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like maybe, and I don't know this, maybe Ohio doesn't have a league of cities like what California has.
Yeah, league of
shit. It was how they
crafted
the law. How they crafted the law by leaving the decisions to go to the local level, which I understand the democratic principles behind that, but at the same time, what ended up happening was, so I'll give you guys some historical context behind this. Mm-hmm. So when we opened California Healthcare Collective in 2004 in Modesto, it caused a knee-jerk reaction from the city to initiate a moratorium and then later a ban. When they got the ban in, they thought the ban was going to kick us out of the city. But what they didn't have the forethought to think about was, we were grandfathered in now because we had already been operating before your moratoriums and bans. So the surrounding cities of Stockton and Merced and Manteca and all of the valley all created their own bans of a knee-jerk reaction from Modesto's knee-jerk reaction. Mm-hmm. And what it did is it created a pocket around CHC of a 100-mile radius where we were the only dispensary. And instead of actually kicking us out and shutting us down, it created a monopoly situation where we became very, very successful, got the attention of the federal government, and then we know the end of the story after that. Mm-hmm. But my point is this, is that when you shouldn't build walls, knock walls down, and make bridges. Bridges to the community, bridges to the industry, bridges to your tax dollars. Let's leave that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but Prop 64 had to market to local control because the League of Cities was going to scream and yell and oppose it more than they actually did. And our local control goes back to the 1880s when they put the power for local police into the hands of cities and counties. And so we had that dynamic in California, and I'm going to assume that a lot of other states have the same dynamic, that unless a state steps in and says this is a state law that's applied uniformly across the state, the locals have the right to have their own laws about this. And that's the problem we have here in California. And we're not going to fix it in California until we get this out of the hands of the locals and allow them to zone it, but they can't stop it. And then we'll That's a whole nother battle to get beyond the local control issues here, which are in our Constitution here in California. And that's just the mess we're in. It's a democratic mess. We can't get the support from the government to do this because they don't want to give up their power. It's going to probably take another initiative, because when the government has constipation, you got to go out to the people and unblock it. We need a laxative here to fix this shit. And I just don't, we're going to have to continue to push against this. Every place it pops up.
People with power will not cede power without a fight. It's just a natural human instinct. You're not going to give up your power freely. You have to be forced to give up your power by the people who control the government. In theory.
Initiative process, true democracy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, you ready, Rico? It's about that time.
Oh, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yes. Big thank you to everybody for joining us for another episode of High at 9 News. You can catch us live weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fans showing love, getting their comments posted live on the big screen. Today, it was Jenny Dills, Anna Lewis, and the C Word. We love you all and appreciate your support. I think we had enough revenue generated from today's show to pay off a whole set of 4 of those day saver pre-rolls. What do you think, Jason?
Oh boy, we can pay for 4 workers. You're cute. Rico, also too, we do want to give a big shout out to Ben LeBone, who happens to be joining us in studio this morning. Yes.
Big Ben.
Okay.
Yes.
Big Ben in the house.
Yeah, watches every day. We appreciate the support, Ben.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Big shout out to the rest of our live audience, online supporters catching us across all media platforms, tuning in each day to the headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. To our veteran correspondent team from tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and your respective opinions to the table. All the sponsors keeping our lights on, our production team, Cloud Media Partners, keeping our AV struggles to a minimum. I know we had a little rocky start today, but I appreciate everybody sticking with us.
Yes,
we couldn't do that. We would have just thrown in the towel if it wasn't for the feathering excellence of Adam.
No, we got Millie in the back, bro. Millie in the back on Wednesday, bro. Right now.
Oh,
yes.
Millie.
Yes.
Millie. Thank you, Millie, for getting us back on track. We love you.
Yes.
And always, Cannabis Sativa, the reason why we show up to read these headlines every single day. Thank you too, baby girl. It has been Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. The show's over. You've all been blessed with the top industry headlines. Hope it's enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until tomorrow. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News, America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And today we are gonna back this thing on up and give it to Manndie Tingler. What you got for us?
Thank you. Well, I'm going to go ahead and ask y'all, if you are in the greater Sacramento area, come out and meet me and Luke today at the Connected store in Sacramento. We're going to be there from 3:30 to 5:30. We have fantastic launch promotions at this new store location of ours. And if you can't make to Sacramento, make